The rise, fall, and return. He's coming for the belt. A piston of a right hand, a diverse striking repertoire, and a full deck of strangles. That's Charles Oliveira for you, a once-in-a-lifetime athlete whose ability to bounce back after setbacks and whose unrivaled will to take on the world even when his back is against the wall sets him apart from the rest of the fighters in the upper echelon of the sport. Oliveira has a habit of defying the odds, and that should worry his opponent Islam Makhachev, who will face the stubborn Brazilian once again at UFC 294. Before Oliveira enters the cage for his biggest career fight, let's take a look at the Brazilian's rise from the favelas to MMA stardom. Welcome to Combat Kings. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's dive deep into the saga of Charles "do Bronx" Oliveira. Born in a favela in São Paulo, Brazil in 1989, Charles Oliveira had a rough childhood, with poverty and illness limiting his growth for several years. When Oliveira was 7 years old, he was diagnosed with a heart murmur and rheumatic fever, and was told by his doctor that his physical condition wasn't ideal for him to pursue sports. Oliveira couldn't care less about what his doctor had to say. He pursued sports with undying passion. Miracles happen to those who believe in them. Oliveira's physical condition miraculously improved as he played soccer with kids in his neighborhood. At 12 years old, he stepped foot inside Roger Coelho's BJJ facility, which gave free jiu-jitsu classes to kids from underprivileged backgrounds. It was an opportunity of a lifetime, and Oliveira made the most of it by putting his heart and soul into the gentle art of twisting and turning limbs. Within a few years, Oliveira became the champion of São Paulo. As the years went by, Oliveira's talent and dedication in BJJ catapulted him to great heights, earning him numerous tournament victories and prestigious titles. Then, his journey took an exciting turn as he delved into the unforgiving world of mixed martial arts. This new chapter proved to be a perfect match for him, as if destined by heaven itself. Oliveira made his professional mixed martial arts debut at only 18 years old, letting his elite grappling skills do the talking against far experienced foes and winning all 12 fights outside the UFC with 11 finishes. After an immensely successful start to his career, Oliveira signed with the UFC, where he needed only 41 seconds to impress Dana White and company. His first fight against Darren Elkins in 2010 was tough on paper. Inside the cage, it was a completely different story. Elkins drew first blood as he picked Oliveira up and slammed him onto the mat with ease. Within a split second, however, the tables turned. As soon as Elkins secured the takedown, Oliveira quickly caught his opponent in armbar and finished the fight. In his second promotional fight, Oliveira faced veteran Efrain Escudero only a month after his debut. During the first 2 rounds, Oliveira failed to secure takedowns, but he let his combinations flow on the feet. In the third round, Oliveira took advantage of Escudero's fatigue to jump on his back and finish the job with a rear naked choke. With 2 impressive wins in 2 fights, the UFC brass matched Oliveira up against a supremely tough fight in Jim Miller, but he wasn't ready for a step up in competition just yet. Oliveira lost by submission and went on a downward slope when he had his next win turned into a no contest and was then stopped by Donald "Cowboy" Cerrone. For the next 4 years, Oliveira continued to rip through unranked and bottom-tier guys, but lost every time he faced a step up in competition, whether at lightweight or featherweight. Losses are always detrimental to one's confidence, especially in a sport as brutal and unforgiving as mixed martial arts. But deep down, Oliveira understood that every bit of adversity he faced was molding him into the champion he was destined to become. Belts and glory demand sacrifices, like saying goodbye to friends and sometimes coaches who were there for you every step of the way. For Oliveira, a change in training camps was the turning point. After a decade with Makhachev Gold Team, Oliveira packed his bags and moved to Shootbox in 2018, a decision that changed his life for the better and paved the way for one of the most impressive win streaks in UFC history, the first win of which came against Clay the Carpenter. Glida at UFC 225. Oliveira produced a clinical performance, forcing the veteran to tap in a little over 2 minutes with a rear naked choke. 3 months later, Oliveira returned to the cage to fight Christos Giagos in his backyard at UFC Sao Paulo. The first round between the two lacked action by an Oliveira fight standards, but the Brazilian still managed to secure a takedown and work his way into a dominant position. In the second round, the Brazilian secured a takedown early, securing a body triangle and cutting off Giagos' blood supply with a rear naked choke to set the record for the most submission wins in UFC history, which he still holds to this day. Good luck beating that. Du Bronx continued his winning ways by exorcising a past demon in his very next fight. Having suffered his first career loss at the hands of Jim Miller, Oliveira was razor-focused heading into the rematch. Oliveira 2.0 ran through Miller, securing an early takedown and breaking through his foe's defense with ease to submit him by a rear naked choke. Just 2 months later, Oliveira was back in action, facing David Timur in Fortaleza, Brazil. The first round was wild as Oliveira survived a couple of gruesome eye pokes and a knockdown in the first half to punish his opponent by simply outpacing him in the second half. The finish came just 55 seconds into the second round, when Oliveira pressed Timur against the cage and rocked him with an upward elbow, followed by an uppercut. Following a series of fight-ending blows, Timur tried to initiate a clinch, but Oliveira snapped his neck in an anaconda choke to bag another win. In his next 2 fights, Oliveira put his shootbox striking on display, overwhelming an old foe in Nick Lentz with his relentless striking, before stopping him with a straight right followed by ground and pound in the second round. Oliveira's next win against Jared Gordon was even better. Gordon survived an early takedown scramble initiated by Oliveira, and then the two fighters exchanged shots on the feet, with Oliveira landing more. Moments later, the American got a bit too close, and Oliveira stunned him with a counter right hand. Oliveira rendered him unconscious with a vicious uppercut as Gordon regained his whereabouts. One follow-up shot, and the fight was over. With 6 consecutive wins under his belt, Oliveira faced a sizable step up in competition in Kevin Lee at UFC Brasilia in 2020. The first round was very even as both landed some good shots, but Oliveira started to up the ante by letting his combinations flow in the second. Lee struggled to keep up with the Brazilian's pace and pressure on the feet and resorted to takedowns. In the third round, Lee tried to go for a takedown after failing on the feet, but Oliveira quickly snapped his neck with a guillotine to put the lightweight top 5 on notice. Oliveira's first victim in the top 5 was perennial contender and former interim champion Tony Ferguson, who the Brazilian fought at UFC 256. Fans were expecting violence since both fighters had a very similar fighting style, but Oliveira completely shut the devil down by using his wrestling and BJJ and almost ripping his arm off with a gruesome armbar in the first round. Ferguson was too tough for his good and exited title contention after losing by a lopsided decision. Oliveira, on the other hand, earned a vacant lightweight title shot following Khabib Nurmagomedov's retirement. Since #1 contender Dustin Poirier chose a life-changing fight against Conor McGregor, instead of fighting Oliveira for the vacant belt, promotional newcomer Michael Chandler was handed the opportunity to fight for the belt at UFC 262. The first round was all Michael Chandler, as he hurt Oliveira a couple of times and punished him with ground and pound. But the Brazilian bounced back in a big way, clipping Iron Michael with a stiff left hook to have him rolling backward. Realizing that it was his moment to shine after a decade of ups and downs, Oliveira swarmed Chandler and crushed his jaw with nearly a dozen strikes before the referee stepped in and called a stop to the fight. In a way, Oliveira's title fight against Chandler perfectly encapsulated his entire career before that point. He was down and out, but refused to give up and bounced back to achieve what he had always wanted. But, as they say, defending a territory is far more difficult than securing it, especially when your adversary is as dangerous as the heavy-handed Dustin Poirier. Like dozens of times in the past, Oliveira was the underdog against Dustin Poirier at UFC 269, and he produced yet another comeback victory. In the first round, Oliveira was beaten from pillar to post and was knocked down twice by Poirier, but the American was too scared to try and finish the best submission grappler in UFC history, and he paid a heavy price for not believing in himself. In the second round, Oliveira resorted to wrestling, securing a takedown and dominating his opponent on the mat before jumping on his back in the third round, locking in a body triangle, and finishing the job with a rear naked choke. Oliveira's second title defense was supposed to be against Justin Gaethje at UFC 274, but a weight miss by half a pound saw him lose his belt. The fight went as planned, however, but only Gaethje was eligible to win it. Despite getting rocked early in the first, Oliveira bounced back again to stun Gaethje in the first round before quickly taking his back and forcing the tap with a rear naked choke. Wanting to reclaim his title, Oliveira signed the dotted line to fight Islam Makhachev at UFC 280, despite believing that the Dagestani hadn't done enough to earn a title shot. Still, the opponent didn't matter to the Brazilian as much as lightweight glory, and the two eventually fought in Abu Dhabi, where Oliveira's winning streak came to an unfortunate end. Makhachev dominated him on the feet and the mat, dropping him with a clean right hook a minute into the second round before choking him out 3 minutes into the second round. A wounded lion is still a lion, and if we have learned anything about Oliveira during his time in the UFC, it is that he's the most dangerous when he has his back against the wall. In his most recent fight against Beneil Dariush at UFC 289, Oliveira produced a perfect performance. Dariush had a good first couple of minutes where he enjoyed decent top control, but as soon as Oliveira managed to make his way back to his feet, he shook Dariush's brain cells with a big head kick and then went for the kill. Oliveira looked sharper and more focused than ever, and now he feels he is ready to reign as the king of the lightweight jungle once again. Will Charles Oliveira rise to the highs in MMA again? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. To watch more videos like the one you just watched, please subscribe to our channel and turn on your notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.